What's going on, YouTube? Coming to you today. I need to stop saying that. You aren't just YouTube. This isn't YouTube, okay? These are just men and women on the internet. Yes, sirree. So, today I've got a video I watched. It's a pretty good video. I think it lists some key roles about your boy and man named the late and great Jordan Peterson. Yes, sir. The old the old dopamine bandit. You know what I mean? Dude just talking about matter and shit. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm gonna have his video listed in the description so you can take a peek at it too. I think he brings some interesting points up as he usually does. Dude, some sort of psychologist or whatever. I don't know what he does exactly. I just know that guy's a lot smarter than I am. You know, he brings up some stuff, puts it in perspective for you, really knows his shit. So, basically what he's going on about, I'll just give a gist, give a gist of what it is. So, essentially he's talking about how today in society women don't are ending up at the pinnacles and the extremes of the workforce. You know, they're being told their entire lives that this is what it needs to be. They need to go do this, that, and they don't want to have kids or whatever. Anyways, so he says 50% of women end up childless by 30. And this was taken from a report back in 1990, who would be in their 30s now. I'm going to pin the source for that article, uh, which is a big deal. You know, typically women become infertile between 30 and 40, 45. Some are lucky. Some 50-year-olds are out there having kids for whatever reason. But so that's a pretty big deal. 50% of women born in 1990 don't have kids now. So you might ask yourself, what does that mean? That means that we've about half the population. Well, that's a pretty gray area, and there's a lot of math involved in that. So I'm not going to get into that too much. But for that year alone, half the population was not having kids. Half of women, which is half the population, since women are the only ones that can theoretically have kids, but you know what I mean? Not half the population in total, but if half the women can't have kids, then half the population essentially is not having kids. So, there you go. Um, 18 to 19-year-old women today, that means today, they're told it's about their career. So, I don't really like this because this idea is very multi-sided, if you will. It's like a gem. It's like a diamond. You know what I mean? A fine-cut diamond. It's a very delicate balance we play in society between our wants and desires. And like all people, we have wants and desires. There's no way around that. That is hopefully bred into who we are. You know what I mean? It is the fabric of our DNA, if you will. You know, adapting and overcoming and becoming greater and better is always inside of us nowadays anyway. You know, we're not hunting for fucking tigers and trying to figure out how to start a fire anymore. We're not living in the woods. You know what I mean? So ultimately we come out of the womb with this idea of who we want to be. And that's okay. That's exactly how you would ideally think it should be. But the problem is, I guess, with what that's saying is that, you know, society is telling women that they should almost ignore their fertility. They should just give it up, focus on their career, and do only that. And because they say it's a part of the patriarchy or whatever it is, stand up strong, girl. You know what I mean? Which I'm all for. Hey, you want to be an empowering woman? Absolutely. My mother is an empowering woman, but guess what? She has me also. So it's not to say that these women can't have kids or they shouldn't have kids, but they typically end up not wanting to have kids because they think kids will be a burden on them. Which, yes, kids are a burden. I was a burden. You were a burden. We were all a burden at one point. Just a mere grasshopper needing the guidance of their mom and dad. So, you know, there's that. But you also got to consider, I'll give an example of my life. Like I've typically been doing. My mother raised me. She was a single mom. Divorced my dad when I was about 3 or 4 years old. And today, after raising me, is well above a six figure earner, and I think she's in her. I'm not even gonna say because I'm not even gonna guess. I know my mom's birthday, but I'm not gonna do that. Just say she's an elder. She's a very good-looking elder too, though. So, she took care of herself, and she still strove to the top. She makes more than me. You know what I mean? She makes more than anyone I know in my immediate vicinity, all on her own. So it's just don't give up hope. I think it's pretty shitty to think that, and the reason I'm bringing this into the picture is because, I've known someone that was like that. No, I don't want to have kids. I want to work on this. I want to work on myself. I want to work on my career. Yada yada yada. Years and years and years went on. Never did anything with their career. Sad. Maybe they'll get there one day, but time is ticking. You know what I mean? Like I said, between 30 and 40 is when women typically become infertile or less likely or extremely hard or dangerous to have children in general. So, as far as women are concerned, you know, they're they're on the clock, you know what I mean, as they would say, which is sad, but that's just biology, we can't really help that. Not to mention with all the shit they're giving kids these days with as far as birth controls and sticking IUDs in you and giving you pills and all this, you know, whatever to mess with your chemical structure. It's just, not really all that good. Um, the patriarchy thing. Personally, me, I just think it's a big load of bullshit. I think the patriarchy thing is a scapegoat and an excuse to put the general populace against each other. Ultimately, we all have each other. If you just look around and actually, it's in the Bible. You know, don't see what your neighbor has, just make sure they have enough type thing. I know that's kind of out of my realm to say. Um, Never read the Bible or anything, so I'm sure there's some more shit in there that would go in on that. But ultimately, I think the patriarchy thing is just not. You help thy neighbor. That's all you do. You know what I mean? You don't. You don't. It seems like society as a whole nowadays just pits me against women. You know what I mean? Pits this guy against the world. You know what I mean? We're just guys. Women are just women. We're just people. We're all just people together. And so I really don't understand that. I think it's a bunch of manipulative bullshit, and that's kind of what the whole video I'm gonna share you is kind of about. Not really exactly, but it's just kind of putting in perspective the result of such manipulation, the manipulation of women. And that's kind of why we see nowadays this SJW, Me Too. Well, the Me Too thing is like another thing, but oh, men in this and women in this and yada yada, and it's just another fucking excuse for us to all point fingers at each other when it really doesn't fucking matter anymore. Same with racism. Not that racism doesn't exist or hasn't existed. You know what I mean? That was a part of history, like with the whole Civil War and all that. I understand that, but the world we live in nowadays is not the same world. And so I feel like with the newer generation, personally, I think the newer generation, racism is getting dwindled out. So they're trying to find somehow, so whoever the hell is above us is trying to find another reason to put you and me against each other. You know what I mean? And why that is, separate and divide. But I'm gonna go. No, I'm not gonna go too much further into that. Uh, Men and women who work in very competitive markets do not typically see anything else other than what they're doing. So, what I mean by that is, I've been in this role. I'm a diesel mechanic. Like I've said before, I'll say it again. I don't give a shit. You know, when I got into this industry, I wanted to be the top, and I will be in due time. I've been in it 5 years, and I've done nothing but bust my ass. Go to work, bust my ass, prove myself, prove myself, adapt and overcome, prove myself. That's what I do. That's what I'm good at, and that's what I'll continue to do every single day. I'm just competitive like that. I don't care who you are, and when I work with you, you know what I mean? It's like I'm willing to learn, and you better be willing to learn as well. Because if you think you know it all, I bet you anything. I probably know something too. You might know more than me, but that's okay. Anyway, what I'm getting at is we forget, and and so the point is that, like, when we get in these competitive markets and we get fixated on careers and all that other shit, we start we start forgetting other facets of life that you need to have. You know what I mean? Like, so you got your work balance, or I'll just say work because balance becomes afterwards. So you got your work, you got your income, you got your career, you got what you take pride in, yada yada, and then you got your significant other. And what does that make? That makes a family. So you got your three pinnacles that the facets that you would want to put together to kind of say, hey, this is a life. This is a life I can live. Now, that is for most people. Some people don't care. Some people don't favor that for whatever reason. They just, they're better off alone. They type thing, lone wolf or whatever. That's cool. But as far as society is concerned, those three things are what you need to thrive and survive in society, to grow society. Now, that obviously we're all just kind of slaves. I mean, go look at your social security card. It's probably got a bank number on it. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But those three things are what we need to, I guess, essentially become successful in this lifetime. Well, in this Western country, America. Anyways, so we forget about that when we're just involved in work, go, 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 go. Wake up, go to work, go, 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 go. Come home, do work, go, 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 go. So we forget about our family. We forget about our loved one. And I can relate to this because, I did it. I worked 70, 80 hours a week at one point for a year straight, and it pushed people away. I didn't get to spend time with my significant other at the time, and you know, shit resulted from that. So we lose sight of that. Um, Women, specifically in niche markets who are on top of the league, are extremely hard to keep on board due to above reasons. Let's see. Okay, so what that's getting at is women, I guess. I don't know, because my market, I don't really understand this. Well, I could understand it because of the whole fertility thing and all that. I personally haven't seen this because my field, just in general, is predominantly men. So, doesn't really affect what I do, but I don't get to see that side of that. I think in this video he's talking about lawyers and whatnot. So I can understand that. But basically the point is getting to on that is when they get to the pinnacle, they start asking themselves, what's the point? If a woman starts at 18 or 19 going to college, gets in a nice, say a law firm, we'll just say a law firm because that's what they're using, spends the next 6, 7 years growing her field, getting to the top, which is absolutely perceivable. I mean, or obtainable rather. They get to that top and they don't want it anymore. They just don't want it anymore because it's to them, it's just not enough. And they want a life and not a job. But then you got men on the other hand. We'll sit here and work 80 hours a week to stay on top. And, that's another reason the wage statistic is skewed off. So they can sit there and be like, oh, well, men make more. Well, women also see this kind of shit where they get to the where they make more and they don't even care for it anymore because they want a family. You know what I mean? And if they didn't have kids because they were told they didn't have kids or not to have kids, or they thought in their heads, maybe I shouldn't have a kid yet, then they get to their early to late 30s and they realize they can't even have kids anyway. They're like, why the fuck am I doing this shit anyway? And I can understand that too. Even myself. I worked 80, 70, 80 hours a week at one point. By the graces of God, I was granted a position where I make just as much as I did working those amount of hours, but less. I work less hours now. So I don't really work that hard anymore, essentially. But, maybe that's just, like I said, a grace of God. But I can tell you when I work those amount of hours, you really, you really start to lose sight because you start coming home, you're irritable, you're hungry, you're tired, you're worn out. And then if you have a significant other, you're worn out all the time. And if she's not a solid good woman, it'll show immediately. It'll start showing within weeks. You know. So, and they say, a lot of that's why a lot of military guys can't maintain wives and shit. It's a sad world we live in, but understandably women have needs too. I can understand that being in a position myself where I couldn't fulfill my woman's needs, you know what I mean? As far as nurturing and all this other shit they want to go do on the weekends, every weekend. It's like I get to work Saturday for another 7 hours. Like I get home, I'm like fucking tired as fuck. I want to go to sleep, and they're like, "Man, why the fuck am I with this guy?" Especially in like my 20s, you know what I mean? You think a 23-year-old chick, 24-year-old chick's gonna understand why the fuck you're tired all the fucking time? They don't give a shit. So to them, you might as well be useless. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. So anyway, women's education status dictates typically their children's education. Now, I don't really understand the thoughts in that, but personally, to me, I was raised by a single mother who didn't really. Well, she did acquire education, but It was completely irrelevant to what she currently does and makes the most money off of. I would say, personally, as a single mother raised man today, I absolutely 100% look to her as like this is what you should achieve. You know what I mean? She did that on her own. Yeah, she has probably pulled some strings along the way or whatever. You know what I mean? She's an HR manager and has no schooling in it or anything like that. But I've always sought more for myself because I saw my mom do it, and I'm like, I'm an able man. I can do it. You know what I mean? I don't care how much work it takes or how hard it is. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much that. I mean, I don't really know why that was really brought up in the video. I don't really see the correlation in that. You know what I mean? Other than like what I said, I guess motivational. Look for their mother, but it's like why? What about their father? You know what I mean? If you have a father, if my father was around when I was a kid, and actually took the time to raise me, I'd probably look at him and be like, oh yeah, that's who I should be like. You know what I mean? But that wasn't the case. But anyway, that's all I'm getting at. Uh, what is life, job, career, intimate relationships, and family? So I guess what it is what is life? What is life to us? There are different strokes for different folks. You know, some people live by the career and die by the career. Company man, always a man, or always a company man, or whatever. You know, but I mean, me personally, I would like to have a family. So I, I mean, unless the thing with me is I worked those amount of hours I worked, and I really wanted at it, and yada yada and yada yada, and I wanted to go ham. Oh yeah, I want to save up, buy a house, all this shit. But that was only when I had an old lady. You know what I mean? Personally, I think as guys, and I don't know if I'm the only guy, but like as a guy, I feel like my a lot of my motivation comes from women. It's like if I ain't got nobody to come home to, why the fuck do I pay $1,400 for this apartment? Why the fuck do I what do I what am I doing with this? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I sit at my computer. I could live in a cardboard box as long as it's air conditioned. I'd be happy. You know what I mean? Alone. I don't give a shit about this like these like nice shit. I really don't care. That's strictly if a woman were to come into my life. You know what I mean? I don't care about a fucking granite countertop island. I don't care. It is nice. It is better than what I was working with, but I don't give a shit. And so I think a lot of like motivation inside of me to like I guess have this like ideal life or whatever came from having a woman in my life. And as soon as that went out the door, I started to realize, why the fuck am I working so hard? You know what I mean? And that's kind of me. I'm sure that's like an infectious thing though. I mean, but like I said, I make as much money as I did working 80 hours, working 50 hours. So I don't, like it was a moment of time where I got there. It just took time or whatever. But again, kind of fuck that bitch. But anyways, another come along. Who knows? But anyways, guys, this is the video wrap up. I was just, I thought it was a pretty important lesson or important topic. Take care of your women if you got them. Love them. Don't let them go. Later.